Hi, I'm Reggie Harris, and I'm running for Cincinnati City Council in 2021. Calvin Davis, welcome to We Will, the Reggie for Cincinnati podcast, where we spend time exploring the behind the scenes of a campaign. I'm running for Cincinnati City Council, and we are entering this phase of the podcast where we're beginning to talk to the campaign staff, folks who helped me along this journey. My campaign staff mean so much to me. I work full time. I work in affordable housing development. We talk about that. And so my full-time job is very full doing a lot of the aspects of the work that I hope to do as a member of Cincinnati City Council, but I do it in other cities. And so has been absolutely critical for me to have smart, capable folks working for the campaign. So Calvin, will you introduce yourself to our listeners and tell us what you do for the campaign?
So my name is Calvin Davis. I am the social media coordinator and podcast editor for the Reggie for Cincinnati campaign. I've been on the campaign since I want to say late 2020, where I was kind of brought on. And really what I do is I help craft your voice on social media, as well as help process and work through this podcast in order to give the people who are listening a chance to kind of really understand what makes you, Reggie, and do it in an interesting way. Because I don't, a lot of council members and council candidates aren't doing this, and this is part of the reason we wanted to do this, is to kind of give that feedback and give that insight as far as like what really goes into this process that we're trying to accomplish here.
Yeah, I appreciate that, and you do, a damn good job of it. And before we pivot to the topic I want to talk about, so I actually want to say, so we met through a mutual friend, right? So Jeremy Smith, who I did Champions of Change with, recommended you. So I met Jeremy through the United Way Champions of Change program, Black-led leadership, and we just hit it off and just really sort of like vibed as folks in terms of our sort of political understandings, etc. How did you and Jeremy meet? How do you guys know each other?
So, fun fact: me and Jeremy actually are part of the same fraternity in the same chapter. So we both we both graduated from Miami University, and we both pledged the Delta Upsilon chapter of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. So that's how we initially known each other. And then for there, I also did some stuff with the Marcus Grant Project, which is something he's also involved in heavily as well. So that's kind of how we've known each other. And I've looked at Jeremy as somewhat of a mentor ever since kind of getting to know him back in like 2010, when I was, going through 2010, 2011, when I was going through the process of becoming a member of the fraternity, just as someone who was doing the things I wanted to do, and someone who really has the advice as far as just like personally and professionally that I feel like I can use in order to better myself, in order to make myself a better person going forward. So that's how we know each other.
Yeah. Jeremy is like, to me, such a cool cat. Like, he's just like such a cool dude. Like, he is someone that I look at and I'm like, wow, you're just really cool. And like when I'm around him, I can't even try to act cool because I think it would just like highlight how cool he is.
He's generally the coolest person in any room he steps in. I'll definitely give him that for sure.
Like head to toe. I'm just like, how is one person have all of this going on? And then and then it also is just really kind of like the topper on the cake when they're like a genuinely very like kind, caring person. So shout out to Jeremy for connecting us.
Yes.
But so listen, Calvin, so here's what I want to hear you I want to hear you speak on. what is it like to be the social media coordinator for a campaign when you have a candidate that absolutely hates Twitter?
Like, so we're going there. All right, cool.
Let's go right there.
All right, cool.
Let's go right there.
It is challenging in a fun way. Well, because initially we had to kind of remind you to like take pictures of you doing stuff. Because you would just do the work and you would do it. And then like I'd be like, okay, did we get any proof of this? And it was like, nah, we didn't.
No.
We forgot. And I'm just like,
I didn't take one picture.
And you're just like, okay, all right. And so just that's the initial thing. It was like, okay, like I understand you just want to do the work, you want to go to the event, you want to speak, you want to do whatever you need to do, and then move on to the next thing. Like, but we need like proof. We need something that we can post and say like, hey, look, he's out here doing this, that, and the third. And especially with Twitter is because Twitter is a very interesting, I'll say this, place, especially when you are somewhat of a public figure in a very hotly contested city council race. And so I understand completely why you want no parts of that. Like I understand completely. And because this is part of my job, I get every notification. Sometimes someone asks you about something. And so it could be someone just followed you. It could be someone is supporting you. It could be a troll who's trying to troll you. I get every notification. And when you combine that with like my own stuff I do on my own, it's like sometimes like my phone will blow up and I'm just like, what happened? And it's right. It's like I was like, okay, so what happened? And I check. It's like, oh, we're just responding to the post we just said. Cool. Or they're adding you about some sort of thing they want you to speak on, and it's just like, we're not necessarily ready to speak on that. Yeah. Either way it goes, it's definitely interesting because I think part of the reason I was excited to work with you is because you don't look for necessarily the recognition. You just look for the results, and you just really want to do the work and just let that work speak for you, which in a perfect world would be all that you needed. However, we live in a society that people need to know what you're doing, and that's where I come in.
Yeah, I really appreciate that Calvin, because and I think we've talked about this in some team meetings. One of the things I recognize has been a challenge for me as a candidate is like, so I am a very extroverted person and I am a performer. That's what I did. Like I am comfortable in front of thousands of people and I can make conversation and I can talk about ideas. But this idea of selling me like as a candidate for people to vote me is surprisingly challenging because it centers me. I am so used to being a conduit for an idea, for an organization, for a philosophy, for I am like advocating for a thing.
And now you're the thing.
Me.
And now you're the idea. You're the thing. You're the organization that you need to advocate for. And
it's so weird.
And that's part of the reason I think that your genuineness comes across and what we try to do on our side to make sure it comes across, because we have conversations as far as like, okay, we want to promote this really amazing thing that he's doing, but it's also we want to put it in a way that doesn't come out like, look at me doing this thing. It's like, no, this is something that we feel like the greater community needs to hear about. And it is sometimes hard for someone where you're so used to advocating for other people that it's hard to advocate for yourself, because you that's just not, you don't, everything takes practice, and right. You don't have a lot of practice in that area because you are a good person who advocates for other people. And so that's part of the challenge of being part of a social media team and social media coordinators. Like, yes, you can still be a good person and also let people know that like, hey, I'm doing this thing. You should vote for me for X, Y, and Z reasons. And both things can be true. And I think that's something that as you grow more comfortable, as we get closer to November, I think that's something that will definitely shine as we keep going on this path.
Yeah. And, but I want to thank you, and I want to thank you in a very public way. I am really impressed by how quickly you have sort of been able to adopt my voice, like how I say things and sort of how I phrase things. And I remember when we initially met, one of the things that I said was that I don't like to repeat the same thing that has been said, right? So, like the same take. There are people who I think are professional Twitter people, and they have these moments where they say the thing in the very, quick snippet way, and it's like, okay, they said it. I'm not gonna do a better job, and so I've always been like, okay, so are there voices that I can highlight? And so you just like from that one little space, you've like, you know, adopted that and really sort of led our social media with that. So that, our feed is one, it's just a space of like really acknowledging the reality of our situation and being very connected to, the seriousness of conditions, but without losing hope. Because I mean, for me personally, and the value of a campaign is that we have to have hope. We have to know that that we are on a path, though it is not linear. Progress is not linear. It has dips and turns, but we are, that moral arc does bend. It may not feel like it, right? But it does bend. So I just wanted to say that to say thank you for the work that you have done, so the commitment to carrying my voice through in the campaign.
I appreciate that, but I'd also be remiss to say that I've done this alone, right? Like we have a whole team. Shout out to Gus, shout out to Kate, shout out to Paige, shout out to the whole team that kind of really kind of comes together to really help us be a very well-oiled machine when it comes to representing you. Because at the end of the day, and I think that's one of the things that I take super seriously, I'm representing someone whenever I am logged on to these accounts or editing this podcast. I'm representing someone and trying to do the best to make sure they are represented in a good light. Yeah. And so that's something that I don't take lightly. And so that's something that we make sure that like we stand in on your voice, because at the end of the day, it's coming from you. Even though you may not be the one always typing it, it's coming from you. So we got to make sure that it's something that we can stand on as an organization.
I agree 100%, and I and I agree particularly with your shouting out our team, because they have been fantastic. All right, so here comes the part of the podcast is one of my favorites. You know it well because you edit these, so you know the what bothers me section. So we're gonna do that. So I'll go first. You gonna time me? You have your phone?
I got you. I got you right here.
Right, and so the whole deal. We're gonna we're gonna do a 1 minute rant. Calvin's going to let me know when I have 30 seconds left, 15 seconds left, 5 seconds left, and I have to interject the phrase what bothers me as much as I possibly can. All right. So go ahead, give me the countdown.
All right, we are counting down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
You know what bothers me? What bothers me is the lack of grace on Twitter. So I'm going there about why I am so bothered by Twitter. What bothers me is that Twitter is a place where people really experience their full range of emotions in real time. And what bothers me about Twitter is that like there's this reward. So one could have a very vulnerable, honest moment, tweet about it on Twitter. It resonates with lots of people and everyone gives them lots of likes and retweets and they're like, yay!
30 seconds.
But what bothers me is that when that person also has a very real moment and says something inelegantly, then everyone is up in uproar. But I'm like, everybody, you guys are all tweeting all of your thoughts. What bothers me is that, like, don't you know that we all say some really crazy things? Like, what bothers me is that don't we know that, seconds. Like, we as human beings sometimes are not fully figured that maybe we shouldn't tweet everything we need to say. That bothers me.
Time. Yeah, definitely. I think that's part of the reason where we try to be super careful as far as what we say on the campaign. Because truth be told, we aren't built to have this much access to each other. on like such a consistent basis and so many different platforms. Like, I don't think the human psyche is really designed to be able to do that. And I think we see some of the effects of that in our younger generation and just how different their brain works, like, than the generation, even my generation, where like we were the last generation who actually went outside. Like, we went outside and we had like social media. So it's just seeing the difference in that is something where, and I don't like to call it cancel culture. I think that's overused as a term. But I do feel like it's something where it's like, it's a gotcha, where it's like, if you have one moment where you maybe not your best, or you maybe show up in a way that's
exactly
not,
right. That gotcha moment.
It's like we got you, we caught you, and it's like, come on now. Like, no one's shooting 100% from the field. No one's shooting perfect.
Exactly.
So like, everyone should, like, throw stones from glass houses. Be mindful.
Okay, you ready for your 1 minute rant?
Yes, I am.
Here we go. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
What bothers me is, why can't people who are using food stamps buy hot food?
Come on now.
In the city. It doesn't make sense to me, because they can buy groceries, they can buy ice cream, they can buy soda, they can buy pop, they can buy anything else. But if they want like something that's prepared already, or something hot, that is somehow too much of a convenience for food assistants, and we tell them that they can't do that. I don't necessarily understand why that makes a lot of sense.
30 seconds.
Because if these people are in a position where they need food stamps assistance, they may not have a microwave or an oven ready to go, or a free, they may need to have something that they can eat readily available.
15 seconds.
I don't understand the reasoning why we tell those people, no, you have to buy it cold, or you have to buy something that's not fully prepared. It bothers me, because it feels like we're punishing people who are already, suffering more. It doesn't make sense to me.
And time. Awesome. No, I so agree with you, and I think that is such important.
It's archaic.
Yeah, it's archaic. It's archaic. Well, listen, Calvin, as always, it is a blast. Thank you so much for all that you do. And thank you for editing this podcast. And I can't wait to hear it back.
It's going to be a good time. Again, thank you for bringing me on. Thank you for trusting me, and to be able to kind of do these different projects in a way that's not necessarily the same thing that other city council members or candidates choose to, and that's a good thing. I look forward to keep working with you. We're on the road to November. Right. We're on the road to November, and it should be good. So thank you for having me on, and I look forward to working this out and making sure that it plays back as well as it needs to.
I appreciate it. We'll talk soon, man.
Sounds good.
All right.